Howdy, gang, and welcome to the pre Halloween special, albeit rescheduled, watch along for Trick or Treat from 1986. Sorry, there. I bumped my camera earlier, and I don't think it's been right since. I think I got it off center or something. But Jack is joining me tonight because we can't have a Halloween related watch along and not have Jack, right? And I am also going to have a special guest on here with me. Chris is going to be joining me. However, I'm going to keep you guys, or try to keep you guys and gals, entertained until Chris can get on here. He will be on here in a little less than 15 minutes or so. So he has to finish up his work day. So you're going to get me for a little bit, and we're going to wait and get the movie started when Chris gets in here. So if you need to go away, run to the restroom, get a snack, get your beverage of choice with caffeine, or if you're wanting an alcoholic beverage tonight, you've got plenty of time to go get that before we start the movie. Also, I have put a link to the movie, and this is the HD copy under the title Ragman. Now, I was going to watch my DVD version. However, I am going to have to watch the link version, which that's okay. That's fine. Which might mean that I'm away from the chat sometimes. And the reason why I don't usually like to use another source, I would rather use an external source and do this through the drive, is that I found when I go away, maybe that has stopped now, but when I used to do the watch alongs and I would use the link along with everybody else, when I switched back to StreamYard to check the chat and went back to the movie, it had, it was almost like it paused or it slowed it down. And so whoever was with me watching the movie, we kind of got mismatched on where we were in the movie. But we'll just deal with that tonight and try not to worry about that. So hopefully everybody won't leave and go away forever while we're waiting for Chris to come on. As you all know, I've said this before, I'll say it again, work and family, stuff like that, school comes first. So just because I'm ready to do something at a certain time doesn't mean that everybody's ready to do something at a certain time. And I'm sure Steve, I need dual monitors, Chris. Is that what would fix that? Thank you for the tip. The only problem with that is I had a dual monitor, or I had an extra monitor for work, and I just don't have room back at my desk for it. You can ask Steve. I would love to be able to have dual monitors for, not only work, but also for, stuff like this. It's just, unfortunately, and Steve got tired of me having I would, what did I have back here? Did I just have one of those trays and I would set the monitor on? I don't know. I had something and I would set the monitor on it for work. And Steve got tired of it being there. And truth be told, I got tired of it being there too. So I don't know. Maybe I can work out something in the future. I'll discuss it with Steve and we'll see what we can do. I would love to have that. That would be the perfect setup. And if we had room back here for me to have one of those curved desks, I'd have plenty of room. But Steve complains that my desk is big enough as it is and takes up too much space. But anyway, again, thank you for the tip on that. we'll just have to make do tonight. And hopefully, when Chris gets on here with me, and I'm not sure, Chris, if are you going to be using a disc version, or are you going to be watching the same version that I'm watching? Steve tells me, Chris, that it says that my Trick or Treat 4K will be here Monday. Now, it could get here earlier, it could get here later, but Monday's what it's saying right now. Okay, you'll be using the same version as me. Okay, cool. And for those of you that don't have your own copy of Trick or Treat to watch, if you want to use the same link that I put in the chat, you are welcome to. Also, I am going to be doing a goal because I didn't even know that YouTube was doing this. So I set up a goal, and this gives me an opportunity to mention this. And no, I'm not begging for money. I just want people to become more involved in the channel. And so if we can get, or I can get 10 super chats tonight, at least 10 super chats, then I will do a watch along for a movie that you guys pick from a poll. But here's the caveat. The people that give the 10 super chats will be the ones that get to pick the movie, or the movies that are on the poll. Okay? So if you want to get in on that and be able to choose one of the movies that'll be on the poll, then get your super chats in, because the goal tonight is to get 10 super chats. Now, I'm not trying to force anybody into this or force you to spend money. It's only if you can, okay? And it can be as little as $5 if you want. And that will still get you in to be able to pick a movie or two for the poll. Okay, so it's a way to support the channel, and also you get something out of it. Okay, so if you are able to financially, please do. I will appreciate it, and also you guys and gals will get to be in on an upcoming watch along. Okay, yes, Candace says, come on with those super chats. Help Dana out. Thank you, Candace. Chris, you say, my tracking is also showing Monday, but I'm seeing several people get their copies today. Yeah, that's what Candace was telling me. And I don't know. Steve just told me a little bit earlier that it said Monday, but, you never know. Maybe it'll come tomorrow. Maybe it'll be a Halloween treat. But I guess I can blab on a little bit more. Hey, show of hands for people that are in here. How many people watched the new Evil Dead Chicks excellent movie reviews? I talked about the 4K release of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I may have to stop and take myself out of the stream for a second. And Candace said she did. Candace is one of my biggest supporters, folks. And I couldn't ask for a better supporter, a greater supporter. Her and Chris are both very much supporters of my channel. But I was going to say, I may have to take myself out of the stream a couple of times or so. One, to let Zoe back in. And also, I have chili on simmering right now. Steve will be happy because he can have some chili tomorrow before he goes to work. And I may have to stir it just so it doesn't stick. I'm sure y'all are just thrilled to know all about my culinary activities. But what the Evil Dead Chicks Excellent Movie Reviews is going to be a series of videos that I put on my YouTube channel where I don't really review the movie itself, as in the plot of it. Is the plot good or whatever? I do that on Terror Time Tea. But this is going to be new releases, whether it's a new release of an older movie, as is the case with The Nightmare on Elm Street, and it came out on 4K, and everybody's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for that 4K of A Nightmare on Elm Street, if you like A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I'm also going to be doing one later after I get my Trick or Treat 4K and I watch it and I'm able to review it. I will also be reviewing not only the transfer, but the special features on these respective releases. So, also, want to remind everybody you can pick up shirts, not hats just yet, but you can pick up shirts. And hopefully, I'll get off my lazy butt and get mouse pads on there and tote bags on there soon. I'm also going to be putting air fresheners on the site. They will be primarily horror related, but as I always say, I can customize them. Like if you want a picture of your family on an air freshener, I can do that for you if you don't mind. One, paying me to do it, and also sending me a family photo. Candace says, excited for that 4K. I've been waiting for a crisp quality to Trick or Treat. Now, this copy that we're going to be watching tonight under the Ragman title, for the longest time, that was the only HD version of it I'd ever seen, and it looks really, really good. Also, I wanted to let you guys and gals know that there are Spanish subtitles that I can't remove off of this version of it, but it's for free, so I think we can deal with that. Hey, Alex, and hey, Igor. I haven't gotten my Trick or Treat 4K yet. My husband tells me it's coming Monday, but we can hope against hope that it'll come before then. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to bring up. I grew up watching it on VHS too, Candace. And then, I found, this was my little gem for a long, long time that I got out of, I believe, the $5 bin at Walmart many moons ago. You say you grew up watching on VHS that had been watched 1,000 times exactly. Yeah, because I think a lot of us, or at least a lot of people that come to my streams and watch my videos and come to the channel, grew up, watching this thing on VHS. Whether you were a metalhead or not, I wasn't really a metalhead, but I like some of the music, and I definitely like the music that's in Trick or Treat. I always have. But you can get, you can get t-shirts and mouse pads soon, tote bags soon, hats a little bit later, but they're coming. You can get candles, blended teas, booga booga pears. Hey, TJ, long time no see, buddy. You say saw a 35 millimeter screening this past Saturday of Trick or Treat. Well, you lucky dog, TJ. I would love to see a 35 millimeter print of it. Even if after I have my 4K, I would still love to see a 35 millimeter print. So we've got all of that on the deadites.ondeck.com shop. And just go on over and about to lose my voice there. It means I've been talking too much. Hop on over to deaditesondeck.com and check out what I've got on the horror shop. You never know what I'm going to have on there when you go on there. It might be a very big surprise. Candace says I was obsessed with Kiss and Ozzy, so this movie was the pinnacle for me. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always loved Kiss, and I like a lot of Ozzy stuff as well. uh, excuse me, my throat is about to go. Um, So, does anybody, while I'm waiting for Chris, does anybody have anything they want to ask me about this movie, about this watch along, about the goal I set up to get the 10 super chats? And if we get 10 super chats, I will create a poll based on movies that people that give the super chats pick um, to do a watch along for. You know, you guys that give super chats will get to pick the movies that go into the poll, and then everybody will get to vote. And then the one that wins, I will do a future watch along for. So that was probably my delivery because I had ordered a shirt and I didn't think I was going to get it until a little bit later. But now it turns out that I'm getting it today, and I'm very excited because I'm going to try a new method of sublimating the shirt, the t-shirts. Not really the sublimation process, but actually it's the tearing of the. If you print out the design, it's like tearing around the design, and I want to see how that looks when I actually sublimate that on the shirt. Guys and gals, I'm going to step away for just a second. I'm going to take myself out of the stream, and then I'm going to see if I can get Zoe in, check on the chili, and I'll be right back. TJ, you say you ordered one from Orbit and one from Synapse, so you're broke now? And I went away and I come back and Chris is here. Before I add Chris, I just wanted to show off a new candle that's coming to the site. I almost forgot. This is, and I hope you guys and gals can see that, this is Rosemary's Baby Fresh. And for those of you that like the scent of baby powder, that's what this thing's going to smell like. So just wanted to show that before we get started here. So I'm going to go ahead and add Chris now. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dana, how's it going?
Good. You ready to do this watch along for trick or treat and all the
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I've been wanting to do this one for a while now. And also it's kind of it's good timing, I guess, on your part, because with the 4K being released and a lot of people getting theirs in the mail today that I've seen online, and but like you said you're not supposed to get yours till Monday. That's what mine's showing too, but I'm hoping that will update and I'll get it in a couple days.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be a really good treat if I didn't get it tonight, if I got it tomorrow, if I
Yeah,
got
that'd
it
be
on
awesome if
Halloween.
you actually got it on Halloween.
Yeah. Candace says Blackie Lawless from Wasp was a choice for Sammy. I had heard that, and she said I grew up a fan, so I think Blackie would have been a decent pick. But I'm glad with the choice of Tony Fields. If you could choose someone else to play the role of Sammy Kerr, who would you choose? Would a real like rock star have been a better choice? Now, and I'll let Chris answer this too, but I think it was great that they didn't use a real rock star in this role.
Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Chris. But I was just going to say because I think it gave, I don't know if I should say a natural attitude to him instead of like that. I don't want to say overblown, but that extreme, rock star persona
Mhm.
that you would have had with some of these other guys. But that's just me. I think Tony Fields did an awesome job with the movie. And I now we can't imagine anybody else probably in that role because we've seen Tony Fields for years and years. But I'd like to hear Chris's take on it as well.
Um, you know, if I had to choose like a rock star, that would be in that role as Sammy Kerr. Uh, gosh, I don't know. I mean, maybe like one of the members of Motley Crue or something, but
Huh.
but because they kind of had that same kind of style as Sammy Kerr, and it kind of fit them, like in the especially like Nikki Sixx or Tommy Lee, because
Right.
they have that black hair as well, like. But you could even had Vince Neil back in the '80s done that too, and but he could just kind of maybe dyed his hair for the movie or something. But that's just if I had to choose. I don't know. I may would say somebody different too if I thought about it a little bit more. But ultimately, I'm glad that they didn't go with like a rock star because there's not really a lot of rock stars out there that have very good acting skills. Not saying that like the acting skills in Trick or Treat are like masterpiece worthy or anything, but you know what I mean. Like the guy, I can't think of his name. The guy that plays Sammy Kerr in the film. What is his name, Dana?
Oh, uh, you talking about who played Sammy Kerr or
Yeah.
that was Tony Fields.
So so I think he does a great job. It's very like he's got a charisma about him
Right.
that is able to like even though he's not like the greatest actor ever was, he still pulls that off and makes it believable to where he is like an actual real life rock star.
Right.
Um, um, but I got to thinking too, like I don't know if you've seen the movie or not, that has the Foo Fighters in it called Studio 666. Um,
It seems like me and Steve watched that. Steve,
it's
help
okay.
me
It
out
was
here.
okay. I was really watching it because I'm just a big fan of the Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl, in general, and just you mix horror into that with them. It's like it's a very interesting concept. Is it the greatest movie ever was? No, absolutely, but it was a fun one to watch, and it got me thinking if they were to like do like a modern version of Trick or Treat nowadays, like remake it or whatever.
Hmm.
I would probably pick Dave Grohl in that role as Sammy Kerr because he just Dave Grohl is one of these guys that can really animate his face in when he's because he's not like a great actor or anything, but he's funny to watch. I mean, if he played the devil in the Tenacious D movie,
Yeah.
and and that was as small a part as that was, it's very very like entertaining to see him that, and with all that makeup on and everything, and they could do that same thing with him in the role of Sammy Kerr.
Mhm.
um but that's just like my opinion on that, and that's probably something that will never happen anyway, but
Thank you for the $5 super chat, Dakota. I appreciate it, and I'm writing down everybody's name that gives a super chat, so I remember to ask them what their pick for the movie is. Now, again, if we get 10 super chats tonight, then you guys that give super chats will be able to pick the movies for a poll, and then everybody will get to vote on those. And the one that wins, I'll do an upcoming watch along for that particular movie. Now, it can be hard, but if y'all want to go out on a limb and pick a comedy, or, dare I say it, a drama, or whatever y'all want. But I think most people are probably going to stick with the horror genre, probably. But Dakota also says Happy Halloween. So thank you for that, Dakota. I appreciate it. All right. And Candace says, I think Gene Simmons would have fit the look. He's a decent actor, but I'm not sure if he would have done the job Tony Fields did. Yeah, that's kind of how I am about it too. And yes, TJ, I did hear that Blackie didn't want to lip sync somebody else's songs. Most of the songs in the film were done by Fastway, which I probably wouldn't have ever heard of Fastway had I not watched Trick or Treat. So, Chris, what was that? Watching Trick or Treat, was that the first time you ever heard of Fastway?
Yeah, probably. Like as the first time, and I had not heard of them since Trick or Treat, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, or at least done any kind of research on them or anything to see if they put anything notable out after Trick or Treat. But
Right.
yeah, that was definitely my first time hearing about them.
And TJ also says originally Gene didn't want to do the movie at all, so he at the last minute appeared. I think I heard that too. That it was he kind of said, "All right, at the last minute, I'll do it." Which I thought that Gene Simmons was excellent as the character of Nuke. I don't think you could have asked for a better person to play that part. Maybe I'm biased because I love Kiss, like Candace loves Kiss, but I thought he did a good job. Candace says the Trick or Treat soundtrack is our friend Shay's favorite album of all time. His favorite band is Kiss, and he's obsessed, but he says that the soundtrack is above all others. The soundtrack is amazing to me. Not only is Fastway on there, but there are several other bands on there as well that I'm sadly forgetting. I may have to wait till we get to the credits, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, this one, this one, this one. Um,
I seen where TJ said that he ordered the 4K from both Synapse and I think he said, yeah, one from Orbit as well.
right.
So did you get the same copy, TJ, or did you get like two different versions of the slip cover?
Oh, that's a
I ordered the version C of it, which has kind of like a red tint to the cover. There's even a little image on the cover. It has Ozzy on the TV.
yeah.
Um, that was my favorite one, so that's the one I ordered from Synapse.
I
Um,
had Steve order me the one where Sammy Kerr is like lifting Mark Price's character up of Eddie Weinbauer.
mhm.
That was the one I
And
picked.
I like that one too, but the reason I went with cover C was because it's all new art. See, the
Right.
other two versions are actually previously released art that were on Fright Rags t-shirts.
Hmm.
So, those are out there on other merchandise. So I just wanted to go ahead with the 4K, get that brand new art that had never been released before.
Right. TJ did say no, too different. He got A and B.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
so I guess, gang, we'll give it about a minute or two more, and then we'll go ahead and get this started. Now, hold on here. Let me, I'm using the Facebook link, and that's what Chris is using. And like I said, this is under the Ragman title. It's a HD copy. The only HD copy I've seen prior to this 4K coming out. So I've just got it at 0, and then I'll do the countdown here in a minute or so, and we'll go ahead and get started with it. But I just wanted to give everybody a chance, if they're going to be watching along with me and Chris tonight, that they can get theirs queued up to where they need to be. So I'm really excited about doing this one. Steve and I did a commentary on this, kind of like for our own personal amusement. We've done a lot of commentaries over the years that a lot of them have been for our personal amusement. We just like to go back and listen to them sometimes, or I do anyway. Maybe Steve doesn't, but we've had a lot of fun doing those over the years. I want to put them on the channel eventually. I won't be able to put the movie on there with them because of copyright issues, but I can at least put like a still photo and then have the commentary playing. And if you want to sync your movie up at home and listen to us talk about it, then you can do that. Candace, honey, I wish you could be here with us too. You say, I wish I could be on there with you guys, but I'm drowning in the schoolwork. But like I told Candace and Chris, I told them, I said, if either one of y'all can't be on here tonight, I will, never fear, I will do these over again and have, I'll have the same people on. I might have different people on. I call them watch along rewind. So, I can definitely do that. Maybe next year at Halloween time, but who knows? So I guess we'll go ahead before Chris gets bored of me blabbing around because I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay around here. We'll go ahead and get started with the movie. So let me bring this back up here. So we're going to do the countdown, and then we're all going to hit play for those of you that are watching along tonight. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, press play. Here we go. We're seeing the DEG logo, I think. Yeah, now we're seeing the DEG logo. The Laurentis Entertainment Group.
And if for some reason you can hear the audio from the movie coming through my microphone, I apologize. But it does not give me an option to change the volume on here.
I heard a split second, Chris, but I don't even hear it now. So I think we may be good.
I actually can't even hear it on mine. But it's whatever. I'll just watch it.
And the other thing is that, me and Chris either have to have our volume turned down or whatever if we can, but I've seen this movie so many times that I don't even need English subtitles on this. I know, I know the script, I guess you could say, by heart. I know what they're saying. I don't even have to hear it. Now, how many of y'all back in the day had rooms like this with all these rock posters on the wall?
I did, but mostly, like, mine was just a select few. I had pictures of Ozzy. I had a lot of stuff of Kiss on my walls because Kiss is my all-time favorite band. I had a lot of Kurt Cobain and Nirvana stuff. Just a lot of stuff. I would kind of mix up. I would like take some stuff down every now and then, and put different stuff up. Like I had some more bands that I got interested in when I got into high school, like Slipknot and
Uh-huh.
Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff like that. But yeah, it was always, my room was always kind of like that kind of stuff about all the time growing up.
Now we're seeing here now, Mark Price. Well, it's fading into kids going up the steps, but there's Mark Price again. And if you did not know, Mark Price's other big role was Skippy on Family Ties.
Hmm.
And this is the farthest from Skippy you could ever get, I think, because the Skippy character was kind of nerdy. He was totally in love with Mallory,
Hmm.
and this on
And
this movie, he's a metalhead. He says "fuck" and everything else, so it's not Skippy.
and that's how I was introduced to Mark Price, was with Skippy, the character he played of Skippy, and then I didn't know about this movie until it came out on DVD, and it was in that $5 bin, like you were talking about earlier.
Right.
I found that because the cover of it had Ozzy and Gene Simmons on it, and those were two people I was big fans of. I'm like, what is this? Is like, this is a horror film, and so yeah, I was not lucky enough to discover this as a kid when it was on VHS. I did not know anything about it. I don't ever remember even seeing the VHS at any of my video stores.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like the first time I watched this was on DVD, and it's not a very good uh, quality version. That DVD isn't.
No, it is
So
not.
so it's been a long time coming to get a actual high quality version of this one. Now that we're getting this on 4K.
Right. Um, Batman says, I wondered if the D. Snyder against the censorship was the inspiration for the Sammy Kerr Congress scene where he was like, "We will bring you down, man." I, it's possible. It's possible that that could have been an
No,
inspiration.
I'm not sure, but I tell you, speaking of inspiration, um, me and Candace were talking about this probably about a year or so ago, or maybe might have been a couple years ago, um, when season 4 of Stranger Things came out. One of the big new characters was Eddie Munson,
Uh huh.
and I feel like that they drew a lot of inspiration from this film for the character of Eddie Munson. Because if
Right.
you look at it, there is a shirt that Mark Price wears later in the film when he goes to the radio station to talk to Gene Simmons,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got like this skull looking like picture on his
Oh, yeah,
shirt.
that's right.
Well, that same image is a part of Eddie Munson's bandana that he wears towards the end of the season of
Ah,
Stranger Things 4. Um, and just a lot of the stuff, all the metal bands that Eddie was obsessed with, and just like uh, kind of getting to the occult type stuff.
mm-hmm.
It all kind of like goes back to this movie. Like, so I feel, and he kind of, when they showed him earlier in the cafeteria drinking the chocolate milk and he spilled it on himself and all that,
Mm-hmm.
he's also kind of wearing like the a denim like
Right.
vest like that Eddie would wear, and so um, I don't know if that's the case, but that's what I believe in my mind, that they drew that inspiration for that character from this.
I could definitely see that as well. And I didn't even think about the bandana. I'm going to have to go back and watch some of
Yeah,
season
there's
four.
other stuff too that I know that I'm misremembering right now, but there we had just I think we had just finished watching Stranger Things 4, and then like we watched, just by coincidence, watched Trick or Treat again not long after that, and then we started noticing all the similarities. So yeah, you just kind, I guess that happens a lot when you have something fresh in your mind. You can
Mhm.
kind of see similarities between two things that are almost the same. So, but it just only really works that way when that stuff is fresh in your mind.
Right, exactly. Uh, let's see. I'm trying to keep up with the chat and stuff, so hopefully I won't miss anybody. Candace said I would love to have the Judas Priest calendar hanging up in his room. Yeah, because y'all are big Judas Priest fans, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Batman says, Chris, speaking of Slipknot, they changed the S logo and it looks like shit.
Yeah, I don't like it. Actually, I think I figured out how to change the volume on this because, like I said, this was not putting out any kind of audio, but I found it now. So,
Uh,
I'm
yeah,
not a big fan of watching movies and it not having any kind of audio.
yeah. I don't either, and I'm like TJ. As long as YouTube don't hear it, we're good. And I don't think YouTube's gonna hear anything.
YouTube would be all right. They got the movie for free on their somebody upload and they ain't doing shit about it. So
Uh,
just ripped that Defenders of the Faith poster up.
I
Lost his
know
damn mind.
it's like I don't know if I could ever be mad enough to tear all my posters up. That would be like somebody dying that was in a movie and me tearing all my movie posters up. I would never do that.
It's like that reminds me, like I don't, and I still think he's crazy. I love him to death, but I think he's crazy for it. Rambo Raff, he did a stream. It was him and Mark. They did this stream and they were showing off all these different Blu-rays and stuff. And Rambo was just ripping up all the slip covers that he had. I'm like, no, what are you doing?
Don't do that. Yeah, and he rips them. I mean, Eddie rips them all down except the Sammy Kerwin. He can't do it.
I always liked Gene Simmons' big Smokey and the Bandit Burt Reynolds hat there.
Yeah.
And with that hat on, he kind of looks like Waylon Jennings.
Yeah.
With the beard and everything, too.
And you can tell that Nuke likes Eddie and everything, but he sees Eddie going in a direction that might be sort of dangerous.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I met Mark Price years ago at a Days of the Dead convention. I think it was the first ever Days of I believe that's the only one me and Candace ever went to was the first one back in 2011. Um, but I had not really even planned on meeting him because I think I had all these other people that I wanted to meet. And I was like, I was on a budget at the time, so I had to meet like the people I wanted to meet the most. But looking back on it now, I'm really glad I got to meet him because he was a really cool guy. But my friend Jeremy had actually set that up to where I didn't have to get an autograph or anything from Mark Price because he sent along with me his Trick or Treat movie poster to have signed by Mark Price. So when we got there and I met him and paid him and everything for Jeremy's autograph, he had the same exact posters on his table as what I had brought of Jeremy's. So like I explained to him, this is for my friend and everything. And then like as we were getting ready to leave, He said, "Do you want one too?" I said, "Well," I said, "I don't really have the money." He says, "No, it's okay. I'll give you one for free." So Mark Price
Oh,
ended up
wow.
just pulling one of those Trick or Treat movie posters off his table and signed it and just gave it to me for free.
That is amazing. And Mark Price always, I never got to meet him, sadly, but he always appeared to be a genuine person, somebody that would help somebody out if they
Mhm.
wanted something and didn't quite have the money for it. You run into those people every once in a while.
And I've not seen him do a convention in a long time either, but I'm hoping with the resurgence of Trick or Treat, because there's a lot of merchandise getting put out with T-shirts and stuff now, and then now with the 4K and
Right.
everything, I'm hoping that might get him interested in coming back to the convention scene. Um,
Yeah, I would love that. Steve's probably thinking, "Oh gosh, don't even anybody say that.
because
They don't be dragging me to another convention."
because he was such a cool guy when we met him, and I know there's a lot of people out there now with the 4K coming out that may have not even seen the movie before.
Right.
And there's a whole new wave of new fans coming in of this movie, and just in general, like there's a lot of people that just are going to conventions now that had never been to one, so they didn't get that. They didn't even know about that chance of meeting him, years ago.
Right.
Um, so there's a lot of opportunities out there for him to. I'm sure if he came, they brought him in now, they would he would be have quite a line, I would think.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. Um,
And I don't know why. I guess because it's kind of similar, but the scene that they were just showing with the pool, everybody's like having a
uh-huh.
party there. Um, for some reason, it always reminds me of that scene in It's a Wonderful Life where they're at
Oh
the
yeah, where
party
they're
and
dancing.
they're all dancing, and then like the floor starts opening up, and then there's a pool underneath, and
Yeah.
then they all just end up jumping into the pool.
Yeah, I always love that. I love It's a Wonderful Life in general, but that scene in particular was great.
But yeah, this that shirt there that he has got on, that's the shirt I was referring to earlier with
Okay.
the skull, and it's pretty much the same image. If not the same, it's very close to the same image that's on Eddie Munson's bandana in Stranger Things.
Well, that's gonna make me want to go back and watch some of season 4 again because I want to see that.
Well, I have probably watched season 4 of Stranger Things now at least 4 or 5 times.
Really?
Uh, yeah, because and there may be some people that would scoff at this because it's a newer show or whatever, but Stranger Things is probably my second favorite TV show of all time,
Mm,
next to the original Twilight Zone being my first favorite. But
right.
but it's just it's a very special show to me. Stranger Things, it's really
Yeah,
awesome
I
because I
think.
love the '80s, and that's what that
Yeah,
whole show is just basically a tribute to the '80s.
right. Exactly. Steve, when I was talking about conventions, we were talking about Mark Price. He's like, no. He's probably thinking, please, for the love of God, don't let Mark Price come to a convention soon. Uh, Candace did say that Eddie would have been the kind of kid that she would have been hanging out with in high school. Oh, there's no doubt
Hmm.
about that. I hung around with a lot of guys mostly, especially in high school, um, because they were the ones that would talk horror movies with me. So, the girls didn't tend to talk horror movies. They wanted to talk makeup and clothes and their love life and all that, and the guys were over here talking about horror movies. And I was a late bloomer, folks, as far as romantic involvement. Um, I'll be totally honest, Steve was my first real and serious boyfriend. And he's the first person I ever thought about marrying. So I was definitely a late bloomer. That was in my 30s when I, met Steve and stuff. So Steve's probably saying, don't talk about our relationship on here. TJ says the only thing that don't really work is the so-called relationship between Eddie and Leslie. I think it works. I'd like to hear more on that, TJ. What do you think, Chris, about their relationship?
I'm kind of in agreement with TJ on that.
Okay.
It's very strange to me because it's not like a typical um you know relationship. I mean, I could see them possibly like being, friends, but not super close friends, just based off their personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was kind of like that in school. Like I tried to be friendly with everyone. I never. I mean, I stuck. I was more drawn to specific groups of people that like stuff like horror movies and metal and punk rock and just
Mm-hmm.
anime and different things that I was into. But I also like just talking to everybody too and try to be friends with everybody.
Right.
Um, Even though I didn't hang out with them very much or anything, and you know, but sometimes like it just that doesn't work out. I mean, you could try to be nice to everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that they're going to be nice back to you. And that's just from my own personal experience. I'm not talking anything related to the relationship between them and the film,
Uh-huh.
but but I do see what TJ is saying. Like like he says, they spend barely any time together until the end. So they're just kind of like more of acquaintances, really. Like, and I had a lot of those growing up, so I can definitely understand what he's saying.
Right. So, too, Chris, did you feel like their relationship seemed forced? Like it wasn't natural?
A little bit of both. It feels forced to an extent, but also, like I said, from my own personal experience of just being friendly with everyone, even though I'm not super close friends with people, that's a very natural thing that can happen too. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's one of those deals, like, or maybe it just depends. It's just depends on your perspective of it, I guess.
Right. I like hearing these different interpretations of things and how people feel about it. Even if we don't have the same, way we look at it, it's good to hear all different viewpoints on it. Now, when Eddie gets his first one up on the bullies, most of us regular Janes and Joes, that didn't have the perfect time in school. And if you didn't have a perfect time in school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we probably would have loved to have been able not to hurt people, but to get one up on somebody that was treating us badly.
And that shirt there that Eddie's got on in this thing, I forget who the artist is of that particular image, but I knew it looked familiar when I was watching this again a couple of years ago. I knew that image looked familiar to me, and I had seen it on another movie or a movie poster, and I was like, "Where have I seen that? Where have I?" And then, so I think I did like a reverse, like Google image, like Google Lens
Uh-huh.
search for it, and that image on his shirt is also a movie poster for The Descent.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because I was just seeing that and I had to look it up just now. I was like, it was The Descent, right? And so I was like, yep. So, but one of the movie posters that they released of The Descent is that image. It's on Eddie's shirt here that he has on.
And I love the scene because I worked in a or I've worked in a couple of public libraries, but I also worked in the school library. Well, not work, but I went in there. Instead of study hall, they had me checking books in and out and shelving books and things like that. I don't want to say work because I didn't get paid for that. It was just an alternative to study hall.
But
And,
I see Candace and TJ both made comments on about the relationship again.
uh-huh,
Candace says it's an odd relationship. They're from two different social groups, but have a mutual like for one. Yeah, like I
right.
definitely that's how I feel about that too. And like TJ saying, the big romantic kiss at the end seemed forced, and also agree with that. Like I felt like there was no chemistry as far as like romance goes
Mhm.
between them in the film, and that it does definitely feel forced at the end. Um, and I don't think it was necessary.
See, like I say, I love all this, banter back and forth about the different things because, like I say, we're all going to have different viewpoints, and some of us may have similar viewpoints.
Also, this is just my opinion, but she's pretty attractive and
Right.
too attractive for him because he's not a very good looking dude or anything, in
He's
my opinion, at least.
just, I mean, usually people apply this to women, but he's just sort of plain.
Well, it's also it's high school too, and like
Right.
Ken said, they were from two totally different social groups, and just that's not something that typically happens. No, no matter how you look at it, because
Right.
uh, teenagers when you're in high school, like whether you want to admit it or not, you want to be accepted
Right.
into some kind of group. And once you're accepted, it's hard for you to switch over to another social group
Mhm.
as a teenager because you just want to pretty much just make it without having any kind of drama in your life. At least from what I can remember, I know that's how I was when I was in school because, like, you know, um, I was just glad to be accepted by certain people that I was friends with and stuff.
Mhm.
So to see them come from two different social groups in this film, um, it's kind of hard seeing them like interact.
So on the other side of that coin, though, let's compare this movie, this being primarily a horror movie, and compare it with like a John Hughes movie, like The Breakfast Club, where you also have a similar thing of these kids are thrown together in detention
Hmm.
on Saturday, but you have people from two different, you have the rich kids and you have the kids that don't have as much. Emilio Estevez's character gets with Ali Sheedy's character.
Yeah.
Molly Greenwald's character gets with Judd Nelson's character. And so what do y'all think about that dynamic in a John Hughes movie versus a movie like this?
Well, with that, with like the Breakfast Club, for example, that's as much as like TJ was saying, like the kiss at the end seems forced in this. Well, those characters in the Breakfast Club were literally forced to be there with each other
Right,
for
exactly.
Saturday detention. So, um, when you're forced to be, you're going to have to make do and just like, because they were pretty much just, they didn't have nobody else to talk to but the people that were
Right.
right there in detention with one another. So, And if you watch the movie Breakfast Club, in the beginning they don't really know each other, they don't really care for each other,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all there, and and they're spending their time there together, so they got to get to
Right.
know one another. They're sharing, different, traumatic stuff that's went on in their life stuff. They kind of like, you know, connect on that level, but as how that is opposed to this and Trick or Treat is like, you know,
It,
they're
it,
all a
they
fourth
didn't
grade in
spend enough
school, but like,
time
but she can
together.
go and talk to anybody else in her social groups or anybody there in the school, but like she chooses to go and connect with him.
Right.
So it's a lit. So that's just how I see it differently when it comes like when you compare like something like that to John Hughes
Right.
film, like. But there's other things you could look at too. Like I definitely get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. But I see, this is what I love. I know I keep saying that, but I love having discussions about these things and seeing what you can throw out there and seeing what people think about it. I think it's good. It's good for all of us to be able to do that.
Well, to talk about that, and it's really, it's just, it's good to kind of think about stuff like that because, you know, just because you belong to a certain social group or community or whatever doesn't mean that you can't be open to looking into other social groups and communities that others are part of that wouldn't necessarily be interested in majority of the time. I've done that myself. I'm pretty open when it comes to movies, at least.
Hmm.
Like I remember years ago, like when I got with Candace, her mom is a big Twilight fan, and I
Right.
was not interested at all in those. But then I actually sit down and watched them, and there were parts of them I liked,
Uh-huh.
and not something I would call any of my favorite films or anything, but I didn't think that they were unwatchable or anything. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So I was open to that, and I'm open to a lot of stuff. Like, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to like
Right.
everything that I watch or everything I listen to because of music or whatever. But I will give it a chance. Um, Candace had me watch this movie with her called Saltburn,
Uh-huh.
and uh, she loves the movie. She absolutely, but for a multitude of reasons. But it's just not. It wasn't for me. It's not something I would ever want to watch again. But you just don't. You never know until you at least give something a chance.
Right. And I have, and Steve would say, no, you haven't. But I'm trying to make myself more open to watching different things.
Mhm.
Uh, because I went through a spell where I was like, that's new. I'm not even going to bother. But then some stuff started popping up that, and especially with horror movies, that was actually really good. Me and Candace were talking about Late Night with the Devil the other night through Messenger, and that's a really good, modern horror movie that's supposed to take place in the 70s. And
Mhm.
I really, really enjoyed it. And I think you and Candace enjoyed it as well.
I really did. Now I was actually shocked that Candace actually sit and watched the whole thing
Right.
with me. Because if you know Candace, then possession films
Yeah.
are not something she cares for,
Hmm.
and it's not something I necessarily care for. But I really liked that movie, Late Night with the Devil. I thought it was really well made. I really liked the whole setting, the era of like 70s late night talk shows, and like he's a failing show. That's competing with Johnny Carson, and
Right.
he's doing anything he can, even whipping up controversy into his show to try to get these ratings back. And yeah, not to give too much away if you haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, but I think it's available on Shudder now
Yep.
and maybe a few other streaming platforms. So definitely check it out if you've never seen it. I loved it.
Joe Bob just showed it on the last drive-in.
Yep.
Poor Eddie got kind of messed up, but he's happy though because he was able to one up the bullies in. But this is before, this is just before things take a really dark turn in this movie.
Between this, Dana,
Hmm.
and Black Roses, which one do you like better?
Oh, this one all the way. I love Black Roses, but I've always had a special place in my heart for Trick or Treat. I think Trick or Treat is probably my favorite of all the rock horror movies. I'll go so far as to say that.
Yeah, I would definitely choose this one over Black Roses as well. Even though I do love Black Roses, and that's one that Candace has not seen yet, and I need to get her to watch Black Roses.
Uh oh, something
Also,
happened to Chris's audio for half a second. He's back now. It sounded like you were in a tunnel for,
oh really?
but you're better now. I don't know what
But I
happened.
was saying that Candace has never seen Black Roses,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna have to get her to watch that at some point. I really, really like that movie. And also Rocktober Blood. I don't think she's seen that one either.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's like what is it? Hard Rock Zombies. And there's a few others out there like I can't think of right now, but which if you can throw like a Terror on Tour in there in that kind of category as well, and but I always really really like horror films when they incorporate a story into them around music, not just rock or metal, just anything like that. And I think that's why I'm such a big fan of Phantom of the Opera, the original with Lon Chaney.
Uh huh.
So it just kind of because it all revolves around music.
Now, did anybody ever light black candles and I did and do like what Eddie's doing with the playing the record and playing it backwards, and I can't say that I ever did that, but
I see that Batman Nerd says if you ask which Trick or Treat I prefer, it's this one. Well, they're two totally different movies. I mean, this is a straight up just story on its own. When you have Trick or Treat, the one from 2007,
mm,
is an anthology film, which is just kind of based around the holiday itself, Halloween. Um, and Sam being like I guess the spirit of Halloween or whatever. So, but if I had to choose between the two, um, gosh, that would be tough because I really love both of those films, and for different reasons. So, but I don't know. I'd have to think about that really hard.
I like the Trick or Treat, the anthology film, but if somebody had to ask or had asked me which was my favorite, I would have to go for this one.
it's very difficult. It's something I'd have to really sit down and think about because, like I said, I like both for different reasons on their own.
Mhm.
Now, like as far as like the characters go, I like the Sam character more than I do Sammy Kerr
Right.
in this. Just because I just think it's a really he's a really cool creature because he's like a because the Sam in the 2007 Trick or Treat is like a demon pretty much like but he's like the spirit of Halloween and I may be a little bit biased because like I love Halloween so much and like I look at it more as like a lifestyle than I do just a holiday.
I'm
Because
still gonna try to do that shirt, Chris. That's kind of goes along with the Return of Living Dead thing.
mhm.
Uh, I still want to do a similar shirt like that. You know,
and,
about
and
Halloween
TJ
and horror movies.
and I hope you do because that would be really cool. But TJ makes an excellent point. He says, "Oh, by the way, it's barely Halloween in this movie," and that's true.
Well, yeah, yeah, he is right about that. Um, Candace says, I played records in reverse before. The first one was the Beatles' White Album, but never lit candles or anything. No, backward stuff in the Beatles music, yeah, I definitely played around with that. But as far as any like heavy metal backwards messages, and I definitely didn't like black candles and I didn't have a picture of any rock stars there like Eddie did in that scene. It was almost like he had an altar to Sammy Kerr or something.
But that was such a stereotype back in the '80s too, for on the
Yeah,
whole satanic panic stuff that was going on, and if you a lot of people looked at if you listened to heavy metal, you were like you'd worship Satan and all this stuff, and you were just kind of thrown into this whole stereotype. Um, and one movie I can remember from I want to say the late '90s, early 2000s was an Adam Sandler movie called Little Nicky.
yep,
Um, they play into that, and because Nicky is the son of the devil, Little Nicky,
mhm,
and then he goes to Earth and he becomes friends with these couple guys who are like obsessed with metal, and they're sitting in this apartment and they're listening to this Ozzy record, and like he starts the one guy he goes over and he puts his hand on the record and he starts playing it backwards,
uh-huh,
and he said what's Ozzy saying here, Nikki, or something like that. And he's actually nothing. He said the Oz man always would come through clear with his messages in his songs. Um, but let me spin this one for you, and he pulls out like I think it's Chicago, and then puts the Chicago record on, and then Nikki starts playing it backward. It says, "I command you in the name of Lucifer to spill the blood of the innocent," or something like that. But I thought that was hilarious because that's basically how people thought
yep,
of metalheads. Like they thought that they were hearing these like messages. And then they go into the gate as well when he gets the
yep,
record and he plays it backwards, and it's actually like the like I think it's in Latin or something like that. It's what opens up the portal to the gate to
right,
hell.
exactly. And speaking of Ozzy, uh, Ozzy plays a unique character in that he plays a priest,
Mhm.
Reverend Gilstrom.
Yeah, Candace is not a Trick or Treat fan. The 2007 Trick or Treat.
Right. Yeah, she's
Uh,
told me that. Yeah.
uh, but that's that's
Large
up to her to
Marge
decide.
is in the movie. Steve told me that Large Marge was in
Yep,
the movie.
I
I
seen
didn't
her name
realize
there
that.
earlier. Um, it's just I mean that's Candace's opinion on Trick or Treat for 2007, but it's just hard for me to understand how you could not like that movie.
So, right about this part in the film, did anybody else feel unsure of which way Eddie was going to go? Like, after what happens to Jeannie in the car, um, he looks kind of intense after that. But Chris, for instance, were you ever in doubt about which direction Eddie was going to go? Did you ever think that he was going to go all completely to the dark side?
No,
Yeah, I didn't either.
no. I mean, um, it was exactly what I had predicted because you've seen that in so many movies in the 80s and before that and after that too. Like with the story will kind of start out dark,
Mm-hmm.
and the something's going on with that particular main character that's leading them in the wrong direction, but they ultimately like justify and come to their senses in the end. But that doesn't happen all the time. There's been a lot of with it that we end on dark notes and
Mm-hmm.
um things that you wouldn't expect, and that's always interesting to see too. It's kind of relieving to see that stuff sometimes because you don't want a movie to be too predictable.
Right, exactly.
Because if a movie becomes too predictable, um, it's not going to be that memorable.
Mm-hmm.
But not saying, but this now that's not the case for this film because it became memorable in so many other ways. If
Yeah.
you look aside from like the typical, you know, going from dark to light in the end. Um,
It's something else I was going to bring up, and people want, like me and Candace probably wouldn't care about this so much, but some of you guys might out there, is there's not a lot of nudity in this. I mean, you have the shot of Eddie's bare ass near the beginning, and you have Jeannie's breasts that are shown. But there's not a whole lot of there's not really any hanky panky in it. Um, there's not a lot of nudity. Probably the main things that made this a rated R film would be the violence and the language that's used in it.
mhm. I think that shirt that he's got on this, I think it's a Bauhaus shirt, which
Hmm.
they did. You may have heard it before. They had a popular song called "Bela Lugosi is Dead,"
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
and I'm pretty sure that's the shirt that he's got on here in this scene. I could be wrong though. I don't know.
Don't here's a tip for you guys and gals. Don't mess with dead rock stars who were into the occult and stuff, because this might happen to you. What's
Have
happening?
you ever heard of a band called Mayhem, Dana?
I think I have. I don't think I've listened to anything by them, but I have heard of them.
So they were like, I want to say they were from Norway, I think and they were Satanists, pretty much. They would like burn churches down and stuff. And then
Yeah.
one of the main things that they were remembered for was that their last album that they put out before they like the band kind of came back years later and got new members and everything. But the last album that they put out, the cover of it was their lead singer blew his brains out, and that's the cover. Um, But yeah, so there was a lot of wild stuff that's happened in the whole metal community over the years, especially with them Norwegian death metal bands and stuff. And black, there's a lot of black metal stuff out there too. Where those guys get into some pretty dark stuff.
Mhm. And then there were groups like Judas Priest who got sucked into that whole thing about not really the satanic panic thing, but I think a lot of people have heard about that document. Well, I don't know if you'd call it a documentary, called Dream Deceiver, after one of their songs. Chris, have you
That
seen that?
sounds familiar, but I can't. It's not ringing a bell right now.
And it was all about, it was a bunch of nonsense is what it was. But uh, two young men, who were really into Judas Priest music, one of them ended up blowing his brains out, and his friend um,
I think I do
basically
remember
maimed
that.
himself for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I think I do remember that now. But I haven't heard about that in a long time. That's so. You said there was a documentary over that.
I think it was called Dream Deceiver, just like
Okay, I have to
the
look into
song.
that. I'd like to watch that.
It
Um,
is disturbing. I will warn anybody and everybody about it. The first time I really heard about that particular incident was watching one of those, not Faces of Death, but Traces of Death, which,
mhm,
again, I will warn you people, Traces of Death is nothing like Faces of Death. A lot of stuff in Faces of Death was faked, and that came out, a little bit later. But Traces of Death, I was actually able to rent the first Traces of Death, and I thought it was going to be like Faces of Death, right? So
mhm.
I took it home, and I don't know how many of y'all have heard of Bud Dwyer, but Bud Dwyer was a politician who ended up killing himself on live television. And there is footage of it. You can see it, but definitely don't have your kids around if you want to watch it. And warning, it is very, very disturbing. And I was not expecting it. And I think I just hurried up and shut the tape off. After I saw Bud Dwyer kill himself on camera, I was like, holy crap. I don't think I want to continue watching this. But very, very disturbing stuff. But I watched a little bit of it later, and that's when they talked about Judas Priest and those two young
Okay.
men uh, doing what they did, unfortunately. Yeah, Candace, you're right. You say I've seen it, Dana. The second boy didn't live very long after all that. No, he did not. Oh yeah, Lords of Chaos. I've seen that, TJ. I think me and Steve did watch Lords of Chaos.
I It's on my list. I've got it in one of my on one of those streaming services. I'm not sure. I've got it on my list to watch, but I've still not got around to watching it. I'll put all kinds of stuff on my list to watch, and then um, when I get around to watch something, I'll find something completely different than whatever's on that list. Um, I don't know why I'm that way. Is my brain is weird. Um, like last night, me and Candace we watched the last episode of American Horror Stories,
Oh
which is
right.
like their anthology series that they do. Um, and we watched the after that we watched the newest episode of What We Do in the Shadows.
Mhm.
So after that, Candace was like, "Find us something else to watch now." So there is it's a documentary slash movie. I guess you could call it like that. It's a very interesting concept of how they put this together. So there's this. It's called the Speedway Murders,
Huh.
and it's events that really happened. But these four kids who worked at this burger place, he's called Burger Chef, I think, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
They went missing back in, I think it was in the 70s. And so like it will have like people like they interview the real people talking about all the events that happened, but also they will show like a reenactment of these kids, and like it's kind of like giving them a voice because and everything that they show in the film is like theories of what happened. So like it shows them like acting out these different roles and stuff as these people that went missing. But like I said, at the same time, it'll cut to like real people like talking about the events. So it's called the Speedway Murders. Like, you can check it out. It's on Hulu.
I'll have to check into that. So the part where Roger is supposed to destroy this tape and he doesn't, and he plays it, and Sammy Kerr comes appears, and he wants Roger to play his tape for him. He's like, play my tape. And he pulls large Marge out of the TV, and then you see Roger vacuuming her up. I found that so hilarious.
TJ, why do they not have a film crew filming the lives of vampires? I mean, that's the most interesting thing about What We Do in the Shadows to me because I'm also a fan of The Office, and basically
Mm.
that show is The Office with vampires, and it's in its last season now, so I'm gonna be sad after it's gone. Huh.
So I know me and Chris are on here talking about other things, but they are in a lot of it's in relation to the movie we're talking about. So, but
Kind of.
we'll stretch it. We'll stretch it a little bit. But, that's something else that I like about doing these watch alongs and having somebody else on here with me is that it's okay if we talk about other stuff
And this
because,
is something right here that I always thought was really cool.
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Oh,
Dana, but
no, that's
I
fine.
was gonna say while it's showing this maroon Oldsmobile, my papa when I was a kid had that same exact car, um,
Oh,
and
wow.
same color and everything. So I always thought that was really cool. When I first watched this movie back in the day, I was like, "Oh, that's Papa's car."
Right.
And, so that was the little tidbit that I had. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you though.
Oh, no, that is fine. I appreciate the input. Sometimes you gotta interrupt me, Chris. Otherwise, I would just go on and on about nonsense, probably. That's the other thing I like about having somebody else on here with me. It keeps me from, monopolizing the whole entire conversation.
So I seen Batman there mentioned Rory Culkin. So is he in that movie Lords of Chaos?
Yeah, I think he is.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
I don't know him from too many things, other than like he was in Scream 4, I think it was. Um, and I can't remember if it's Rory or if it's Kieran Culkin, but there was this movie I watched a long time ago called Mean Creek. And
Hmm.
I know it has one of those Culkin brothers in there. And I don't have you ever seen that movie, Dana, that I'm talking
I
about, Mean
I
Creek?
don't think I have. I was trying to remember if I
It's
had.
either got Rory or Kieran Culkin in it, and I know Josh Peck is in it, and I forget who the rest of the cast is. But gosh, it's been probably 20 years since I've seen that movie.
So does the part where Sammy Kerr pulls Large Marge out of the TV, does that make you laugh too, Chris, or is that just me? My
I
weird.
mean, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's like very strange too.
Well, and then Roger is seen vacuuming up her burned up corpse, which makes it even more funny. But maybe I'm just weird or something. When Roger's making that chocolate milk with peanut butter in it, and he's blending it, I've done that before. How many other people have done that before? Made them like a chocolate peanut butter shake or something. Now, I could be wrong, but the guy that plays Roger, and TJ would be probably the one that could tell me if I'm wrong or not. I believe the guy that played Roger, I think he did the first Black Christmas remake.
I didn't
I,
know that.
I think that is Glenn Morgan, and I'm pretty sure he did that. Yeah, that's right, Candace. She turns to charcoal. Steve Hun, why do you have a green apple? I think that's a green apple.
Steve Jobs.
And Steve says that sounds right. Are you talking about me saying that Roger the Glenn Morgan was the guy that did that first Black Christmas remake? Candace confirmed it. She said he did, Dana.
Excuse me.
That's not a green apple, Steve. It sure as heck looks like a green apple to me. Like, I think Steve just puts this stuff up there and he's not even sure what it is.
It's either a green apple or a pear.
I guess it could be a pear.
It looks more like a green apple though.
Why not a green apple? I mean, well, I don't know. I like green apples. I just wondered why you put it there. And TJ says his wife is Kristen Cloak. I may be mispronouncing that. The teacher from Final Destination.
I can't remember. I can't even see in my mind what the teacher looked like in Final Destination. It's been a long time since I've seen the first Final Destination.
So I'm going to see if here in a little bit, if everybody can spot special effects guy Kevin Yeager in this film. I'm going to see if Chris can point him out too.
If he's in it, then I've never noticed him.
Well, I'll give you guys a hint. It's during the school dance scene, so I've never done that, Candace, but I've heard of people doing it, making monsters out of apples where you carve a face and let them wilt. And TJ, I guess, has.
No, I've never done that, but that's interesting.
Candace says we used to do that when I was a kid. I think that's cool, though. That's interesting. Okay, Steve says no reason. He just put that green apple or the pear or whatever it is on there.
Maybe he's hinting that he wants a caramel apple, Dana.
Maybe, but honey, I don't think you're going to get a caramel apple this time
I
unless
would
you
I
want
would
to go
love
out
to
and
have
buy
a
one.
caramel apple. That was one of my favorite things about Halloween when I was a kid. My mom would always make caramel apples
Mm-hmm.
on Halloween every year. And that would be like the only time of the year that she would ever make them.
So you had to wait till Halloween every time
Yeah.
to get one.
So it was special to me. And I guess that's why she did it, because she wanted to keep it special to where it's
Mhm.
something I was, you're always thinking about. Because if you keep having it multiple times throughout the year, then you probably would eventually get tired of them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think something like, caramel apples or candied apples or whatever you want to call them would be something that you could easily get burned out on. And I think probably because they're so sweet. But then some people might say, well, I would never get tired of them.
They can hurt your teeth too. I know.
Yeah.
They're good. I remember a while back, Candace, we got like these sliced apples. They were already pre-cut,
Hmm.
and we just got like this little bowl of caramel from Walmart, and you're just dipping those sliced apples in that. And it's a really good. I mean, I love stuff like that. I don't know about you or anybody else, but like
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a
I love
huge
that
fan
stuff.
of apples. Any way I can eat apples. I don't think Steve's as big a fan of apples as I am. He's more of a banana guy. He likes banana bread and all that stuff. And me, I love apple bread. In fact, Mom's asked me to bring apple bread for Thanksgiving. Apple bread and cinnamon swirl bread. We'll make a couple of loaves to bring.
I love this part. Not to change the subject, but I love this part where, like, because the car, it's got on fire in the back and it's going down the road, and the roof is like tore off and everything. So it almost looks like, where it's an Oldsmobile, it looks like the car's been flattened almost.
Yeah.
Um, and there's another film from the '90s though that the car kind of ends up looking like that later in the film, and that's in Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, like after the deer got in the car and destroyed the car and, stuff, and all this, I mean, that car just by the end of the film is just as had the lick, I guess you could say.
Well,
So
and not so much like this one or in Tommy Boy, but in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, they do a number on that car as well.
yeah, yeah, I was thinking about that one as well. So is Kevin Yeager in this scene right here?
Um, so the where it shows the band, the guy that's got the weird looking hair, that's got to be a wig. That is Kevin Yeager.
What the one right there?
Not the guy with the googly eye or the weird glasses. That is actually the director Charles Martin Smith there playing the
I was
principal.
gonna say, because I didn't look like Kevin Yeager to me,
Now
but
that is Kevin Yeager, the guy that was just talking. He's got the looks like a mullet or something. He's the one that actually gets pulled into the speaker or whatever, and Sammy Kerr takes over for him.
it didn't look like him to me for some reason.
I think it might be the wig or something he has on. Kind of weird.
Maybe. That is an interesting double bill, TJ. Why do you think those two would work together so well? Trick or treat and shocker.
Oh, interesting. So TJ says, so y'all think the stuff with the TV killing Large Marge or making Ozzy scream was real, or was Sammy Curtis trying to scare people? I always thought that he was trying to scare people, maybe making them think that they were seeing this stuff, because you actually see Roger trying to vacuum up Large Marge, because it doesn't seem like anybody else that's around these people in the TV is reacting to it. It's just the person that Sammy has his sights set on, basically. Oh, TJ says the music, the killer using the TV and electricity.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that. Why not just make it a triple bill and add Ernest Goes to Jail?
There you go.
And if you know why I say Ernest Goes to Jail, then you know, then like
Mm.
towards the end of the film, like when he's breaking out of jail, he's like he gets electrocuted, so he starts just running all this electric is running through him towards the end of the film, and I love it. It's probably my second favorite Ernest film.
So, how many people have the Trick or Treat soundtrack on vinyl? I do.
I don't. I came actually last year, or no, earlier this year. When I went to FrankenCon in Knoxville, there was a vendor selling the CD soundtrack of it,
Hmm.
and I came close to buying it, and I kind of wish I had now because I feel like with the this big popularity spurt of Trick or Treat, a lot of that stuff is going to go up in value
Yeah.
and possibly be harder to obtain now, because a lot of, and not just because of collectors, but unfortunately we have to deal with a lot of resellers out there that don't care about horror or anything that they're buying in particular. They just buy it to get it and charge crazy prices for it
Mhm.
to make money on. So I think, and I personally feel like that's why a lot of the copies of the 4K sold so quickly on Orbit and
I agree.
Diabolic is a lot of people are out there knowing that this is limited, know has been sought after for years and years. People have been waiting for, so they're going to try to financially gain from getting those copies and reselling them at crazy prices. There's a lot of people that think that this 4K, after they're all sold out for a while, people they're going to show up on eBay for probably anywhere from $200 to $300.
Oh yeah.
And I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if it does.
Some people might get pissed off at me for saying this, but I gotta say it from a regular person's point of view, and not somebody that's gonna buy two or three copies and flip one or two of them. I just think more of these boutique labels and different distribution, the ones that put the movies out and sell them. And I have seen them limit them sometimes, but I think anything like this, Trick or Treat, or anything similar that people have just absolutely been clamoring for a long time, they should limit it to one per person. And I know people are going to say, Dana, what if I want to go and buy three copies and I want to give two of them to my friends or something? But that would cut down on people just buying them just to be able to flip them and make money off of them. TJ says he'll have the CD when he gets his damn 4K. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And this might, make some people mad too, because I'm not trying to make it, seem that way, because I know TJ said he did buy two different slip covers of the movie. That's not something I could. Maybe if I had the extra cash or something, I would do that. But
Right.
ultimately, because with the tax, shipping, and everything, it was like 70 some bucks for this
Yeah.
4K, and all three versions that's out are the same thing. The only thing that's different is the slip covers.
Right.
And to pay an additional 70 some bucks for just a piece of cardboard, basically, I can't do that.
Can't
But
justify.
if you got the money to do that, more power to you. And if it's something that makes you happy, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. TJ does say there's going to be a standalone disc for sure for this movie down the line. Oh yeah, I don't
Yeah,
care.
it's already been
I don't
announced
care
by
what the
Synapse that they're because they changed their mind
yeah.
uh, in the same day. So they had initially put out a statement saying
They do
that
that every damn
there
time.
was no plans to release a standard version of the film of the 4K. And then as they seen how sales were going throughout the day, they then changed that to say they were going to be releasing a standard version, and they would be making that announcement soon.
Yeah, you can almost put money on Synapse. I'm not meaning to say anything bad about Synapse. I'm just saying they do that every damn time.
Well, I think all the boutique labels
Pretty
do.
much, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you especially look at stuff from Screen Factory, all the stuff that they've released, and like they've always kind of made it seem like get
What they
this,
call
get
it.
this while you can. It'll never be released again. And then they started re-releasing a lot of older titles that they had put out now on 4K. So like I can remember when they put out that Return of the Living Dead, the first Return of the Living Dead that they put out through Screen Factory, and after it went out of print, it was out there on eBay and places online like that for around like $200 or more.
Mhm.
And then I know when they announced that 4K was coming out of the original Return of the Living Dead, the value started going down on that original release that they had put out.
Right.
Um, so, yeah, I think all of those boutique labels do that. They say they have no plans or they're not going to release it again, but then they release it in some form or fashion again later on.
Right.
That's just the part of business ethics, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we complain about it and stuff, but I guess what they're looking at is the bottom line. Let's get as much as we can get out of this limited edition.
Well, I think the people it doesn't really upset me. It really never has, but I think the people that it just upsets the most, which is it's hilarious to me,
Hmm.
because it's kind of like, in your face, pal, is these resellers just buy this solely on financial gain, and they don't care about the releases. They may not even they may not even be horror fans at all, but because I know people like that. I know these kind of people exist because there's people like that in my area that just buys things, not even caring about it, just so they can make a buck on it.
Mm.
And I get that. That's the hustle, especially in the times we're living in now. But you know, still, like, have some respect for the people that are actually collectors in this hobby. I mean,
Well,
come on.
something that I really, really can't wrap my head around. See if you can wrap your head around this one, Chris. Steve has watched these guys and gals probably in the past that must have money to burn. They evidently have money that more money than all of us. And they will go somewhere or they will order 5 copies of the same damn movie. There's nothing different about no different covers, no different special features, nothing. It's the same damn movie. And they
Mhm.
will put them on a shelf. They're not selling them. They'll say, "Look, I got 5 copies of I don't know, Bad Dreams or something." I'm just pulling a movie out my butt there.
Um, well, it just I guess it depends on how you look at it because I'm that way with the Evil Dead films. I have multiple releases of each Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and I know a lot of people will once a new version comes out, if they get it, that's just replacing their older version. They can get
Mhm.
rid of that or whatever. But the Evil Dead films is one that is the only series of movies that I don't do that is where but I have kept every single version,
Mhm.
every release that's come out, and I kind of have them all together on my shelf like that too. So it's kind of, but I see what you're saying. Like there's people out there that do that.
Yeah.
Um, I can't explain it, but it may be one of those situations to where they just really care about a movie and they want to have multiple. But what you're saying, if let me make sure I understand this correctly.
Mhm.
They're buying the same release, 5
Yeah,
copies of
yeah,
the same
it's the same
release.
release, 5 or 10 copies of it, and they'll go like this, and they'll show it to you. It's like, why?
Yeah,
Why
that's a
do you
little
do
bit
that?
different, and maybe they have their reasonings for that.
Mhm.
I I don't understand it, but if that's how you want to spend your money, go right ahead.
Or they'll say they'll buy 3 copies of something, same release, and they'll say, "I don't even know anything about this movie. I just bought it." Like, they don't
Oh,
know a plot or anything about it.
um, Candace, did that already happen? Did I miss it? Because I
The
remember
Billy
that.
Bob on the stretcher?
Yeah. So Billy Bob from the Rock Fire Explosion, Showbiz Pizza.
Mm,
Um, after the scene where when they had the concert and everything in there, everything is when it goes to complete chaos. There's a stretcher that's brought out, and it's got Billy Bob from Showbiz Pizza, Rockfire Explosion on there, and I only noticed that one of the last time I watched this was like a year or so ago. I had never noticed that before, but 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 that's another thing. I don't know if Candace has ever told you about that, Dana, but it's something I have like this weird interest and obsession with is like the Rockefeller explosion and the old Showbiz pizza stuff.
uh-huh.
Because that's what ultimately became Chuck E. Cheese in the '90s and all that.
Right.
There's a whole documentary on that Rockefeller explosion, and it's. I remember when I early on in my and Kansas relationship, um, we found it. It's like I can't remember if it's on Netflix or what it was when that documentary came out that we watched, and that was kind of like, you know, that began my obsession for that, and I had no idea that like it was like all related to Chuck E. Cheese, and because I can remember when I was living years ago in Huntington, West Virginia, right down the road from where I lived, they had that Billy Bob's Wonderland,
Uh-huh.
and I'd been there, and I just always thought of them as just like this knockoff Chuck E. Cheese. Little did I know they were the originators of that whole
Right.
pizza place animatronic combination deal. But yeah,
I
sorry,
can't
I don't
remember
mean
if
to go off on a
Candace
big tangent
oh, no,
talking about
no.
that.
I don't know if Candace ever told me about your extreme interest in that or not. Um,
It's
sometimes
very
I forget
cool.
things, though.
But I think a lot of that derives from my interest in Jim Henson's
Mm.
productions and the Muppets and all that, and it kind of plays into the same kind of category with those animatronics. I know that's a big thing nowadays with the younger generation now because with the whole Five Nights at Freddy's stuff,
Yeah.
it's kind of brought interest back to that kind of stuff for the kids these days. I know my son Noah, he loves that Five Nights at Freddy's stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, Chris, I don't think I asked you about um, this yet. What do you think of this particular transfer?
Well, it looks better than the DVD. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
I remember because you said this was the one. This is titled Ragman, right?
Hmm.
Um, it was a few days ago. Actually, I think it was before the 4K went on sale. I was looking around on eBay, and I think there is a Blu-ray.
Uh
It's like a
huh.
UK release, I think, um, that had the Ragman title instead.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's you can get it for like maybe like $30 right now on eBay if you want that particular release. It's not very much, I know that. It's a lot cheaper than the 4K.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're strapped for cash and want to see a HD version of it, there's the way to go.
Death by Toilet.
Yeah. Instead of death by stereo, we got death by toilet.
Death by Commode.
Well, and Eddie's trying to hotwire his mom's car.
I wonder if that scene that they just show with the car going backwards, I wonder if that was shot in reverse.
I always thought that's probably how they did it. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it, at least back in the mid 80s.
I would think it would be because everything else within that shot was at a standstill. Like you see it right
Yeah.
here.
Hmm.
It's at a everything else. Well, I don't know because that's you see they clearly went forward on that part as it was
Yeah.
passing them.
Oh, I wonder if they could have like flipped the film.
I don't know. That's interesting.
Oh, come on. Who's wanted to drive a cop car? I
Well,
think
if you watch the Blues Brothers as much as I have, you know I know what I
yeah.
would, but I've not drove any car ever, so I
Well,
never will.
I have drove cars, but I never got those proverbial licenses though. So they've made it to the radio station.
maybe it's just me, but I always thought she kind of like a knockoff version of Deborah Foreman.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because that actress, that particular actress, she didn't really go on to anything else after this, did she?
Yeah, I don't think so. Um, I think her name is Lisa Orgolini. Excuse me. And I'm guessing that Nuke got nuked, right? Because you never see Nuke again.
I mean, that's a possibility that, but I mean, did they know that he was even there or not?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever like the night watchman or the security guard at the place. We're pretty sure he got nuked because they found his clothes and they looked all burned up and stuff. So it could have been that Nuke had that set up to play the record automatically, and he wasn't even going to be there.
Well, I mean, I know that they do that sometimes in radio stations. They could have it set up to where it'll automatically play. Because the radio station we have here in town in Hazard, they're like that. They will have a certain program set up to where it'll play through, and they won't really. And they'll like in between breaks, they'll have like pre-recordings of themselves like talking in between the breaks, but it's nothing that's live. And and that'll be playing on the radio, and you could go down to the radio station, and there's like they'll have the booth there that it's running from, but nobody's in there.
Right. Well, and if you've watched The Fog, John Carpenter's The Fog, when
Stevie
Adrienne
Wayne.
Barbeau's character of Stevie Wayne is going to her job as a radio DJ, you can hear these tapes playing on up until she gets there and starts the programming
Yep.
of the day.
Yeah, that's how they do it a lot of the times in radio stations, from what I've gathered. I can remember though as a kid though, like we had a local radio station over where I grew up. Um, now they kind of did it a little bit more old school, where they were there like all the time, like
Wow.
for whoever, because somebody would come and switch out with them and then like do their hours or whatever for where they're on the radio DJing. And I can remember it was nighttime one time. Whoever the guy was that was doing his show that night, he went he meant to play a song, uh, as and instead he was still on air, and there was like dead air there for like a minute or so,
Uh-huh.
and then you can hear him like down a hallway yell for somebody and for them to bring him some toilet paper. And then and like a few minutes later he comes back and he realizes, oh shit, we're still on air. And so I'll never forget that. Like me and my dad were listening to the radio at that time, and like we thought that was so funny because I think we were like coming back somewhere that day. Me and my dad and my mom was probably there too. But it was. I remember it being on the weekend. So we used to go places all the time on the weekends, whether it be close to us or a couple hours away or something. But because it just so happened when I was a kid, I was off school on the weekends, and my mom, neither my mom or dad had to work on the weekends, so we always had a lot of stuff we would do during the weekends. And yeah, I did grow up in the boonies for sure.
Well, I
Uh,
grew up in the boonies too, the sticks, the boonies, whatever you want to call it. So we're coming down to the final uh, scenes of the movie. So Eddie has made it back to the radio station.
and you could also chalk that kiss up to just being a thing of a spur of the moment, hey, we made it type deal. Like, we're still alive. And, but in reality, the girl will be like later on, well, maybe I shouldn't have kissed him. What was I thinking?
The next morning, she's going to be like, "What in the heck?"
Or if like, it's nothing. It could be like one of those deals where like, um, like in Stranger Things, like Nancy belongs to kind of that more preppy and
Mhm.
like, popular social group. But she would never, let any of her friends probably know that she's hanging out with these nerdy kids
Yeah.
and like, the people she was hanging around, like, outside of school. Um, and I think that's kind of like, you know, which we'll never know because that's just about basically how this movie ends. But that's just kind of like how, like I said earlier, teenagers and those when you're in high school, like, because I knew people just like that. I knew people that knew me, that lived up the road from me, that would talk to me and be friendly with me. But while we were at school, because we belonged to completely different social groups, it was you would never know that we were friends.
Right. Exactly. Uh, so everybody, it seems like Candace had a funny story about a guy that stayed on the air, had his mic turned on, and called. He answered a call to his wife, or his girlfriend was cursing her. That would be embarrassing.
I just seen in the credits there. I never knew that before, but one of the I think it was a special makeup consultant. One of them was they had listed there was Alec Gillis,
Yeah.
um, which he worked on Aliens. I believe he did like Monster Squad and
Mhm.
several other films. Him and Tom Woodruff Jr. They worked with each other a lot on effects. I believe. So I know Tom Woodruff Jr. was the Gill Man in Monster Squad, and he
Yeah.
was one of the Xenomorphs and Aliens, and he's been like he was Pumpkinhead
Yeah.
in Pumpkinhead. So I'm pretty sure Alec Gillis did work on that too. Um, yeah, that's just something. That's another conversation for another time.
That's
I've
okay.
always been so fascinated with like effects guys and their
Oh,
work and all
me
that.
too. I wanted to, when Tom Savini opened his school, and you may
Mhm.
have said this too, Chris. I wanted to go there, but it was
Yeah,
just too expensive.
um, I actually before I had met Candace, I was me and my friend Justin Owens.
Hmm.
We had talked about possibly moving to Pittsburgh,
Right.
um, but of course that all changed. And after I met Candace, like I didn't really think about that anymore. I it would cross my mind from time to time because I wanted to go to that school. I wanted to get into facial makeup effects,
Hmm.
uh, and you know, it's something that me and Candace have talked about in the past couple of years too. Is possibly still doing that, me and her together,
Hmm.
because you don't have to move off to those places
Right.
now. How
Exactly.
that's set up, they have online classes where you can take
Mhm.
from, remotely wherever you are.
Yep.
Um, and I know that one of them that Candace was looking at was the Stan Winston School, which is also a very, another good one. But you know, Stan the type of stuff that Stan Winston did and Tom Savini did are like night and day.
Oh yeah.
They're both really good at, at what they do, and they all have their uniqueness about their work. But you know, and I hate to say this because I'm such a huge Savini fan,
Hmm.
but I always felt like Stan Winston's effects was probably the best that existed out there. As far as like modern guys go, not talking about like Dick Smith and guys like that from back in the day, during the Universal Monster stuff. But Stan Winston, put stuff out there like the Terminator films, the Alien films.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say that Rick Baker originally started out with Stan Winston before he went out on his own.
Right.
But I could be wrong about that. I'm not. And Stan Winston also did they brought him in for the original Predator to do effects on, and I know initially they had someone else because they had a completely different design for the Predator when this was still when they had Jean-Claude Van Damme playing the Predator.
Mm.
And then they were like, this looks like crap. And then apparently Jean-Claude Van Damme was like very hard to work with. So they replaced him with, I think it was Kevin Peter Hall, I believe his name was. He was a very tall
I think you're.
black gentleman. Um, but he was also in that TV show. Kevin Peter Hall was also in this TV show that I really liked as a kid called Misfits of Science,
Hmm.
which had Courtney Cox and like Kevin Peter Hall's character in that was he was a really tall guy, just in general, but he could like shrink down to like micro size. And then there was another guy on there named Johnny B. Good, and he had like electric powers, and he could never go near water or it would kill him. Did you ever watch that show, Dana? Misfits of
I
Science?
think that is something that I heard of, but I don't think I ever watched a single
Oh,
episode, unfortunately.
it maybe was like 10 episodes. It was very short lived. I think it started off with like a pilot movie for it before the show came out, but it was very short lived. But I just always remember watching reruns over and over and over as a kid with me and my brother. And yeah, I loved it. I loved the concept of it.
Speaking of special makeup effects, guys, though, did I ever tell you my Dick Smith story?
No.
Okay. So, this is one of my great regrets in life, folks, for those of you that have not heard this story before. So, back in the day when people would still write to famous people and get autographs and different things,
Mhm.
of course, I was really into special makeup effects at that time, and I still love makeup effects, but I was really thinking about going whole hog into it and making a career out of it. So I wrote a letter. Anybody remember letters, snail mail letters? I wrote a letter to Dick Smith because I somehow got his address. And he wrote me back. He sent me either a postcard or a letter back and
Mhm.
gave me his phone number and told me to call him and he would discuss makeup effects with me, and I did not do it. And now, of course, Dick Smith is no longer with us.
Right.
I wish 1,000 times I had just been brave and just called the man up. That would have been a story for the ages. I
Yeah.
talked to Dick Smith on the phone, and I did not do it.
And see, you know, it's I've been put in those situations before too, and like it's hard, to build yourself up to take initiative to do things sometimes. And if you wait too long, you wait too late.
Yeah.
Um, so I mentioned him before. My friend Jeremy that lives in Virginia, like he does, if he gets a notion that he wants to do something, he goes out there and he just does it.
Yeah.
That's why he's as successful as he is nowadays. He's got his Epic Film Guys podcast. It's got a really good following now. He put out the Fred Heads documentary, or he helped put that out. He's currently working with the team putting out the new Thing documentary.
Uh-huh.
He told me a story once. I don't think he would mind me telling this. Um, that Rick Baker, who did the effects on the Thing,
Mhm.
and a multi not Rick Baker, but
Yeah.
Rob
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Bottin.
Rob Bottin. Yeah.
Rob Bottin, like I don't know why I said Rick Baker. I guess I was thinking of something else, but like anyway, Rob Bottin, um, so that did effects on the Thing. He's known as kind of being very like a recluse. Like he doesn't want anything to do with these conventions or really meeting fans. So Jeremy somehow found out where he lived, and Jeremy said that I went right to his front door, and because he was trying to get him to sign his Thing poster,
Mhm.
and reluctantly he did. He signed Jeremy's poster, and Jeremy is just one of those guys that he does that. He you see these people like out on the streets and stuff, and airport, but Jeremy does it respectively. He doesn't do it in a way like he's trying to like push stuff in their face. Like he tells them how much it means to him. Everything. Why he loves this, why he does this, and if they decide not to do it, to sign for him or whatever. He's like, okay, I understand.
Right.
Thank and he just thanks them and goes on. But Jeremy is the type of guy that has been very blessed, I should say, of his encounters with these celebrities. I remember him telling me that he got tipped off. Him and his friend got tipped off one time that Harrison Ford was at the airport.
Oh, wow.
And so they went and they got to meet him and everything, and he signed like their Star Wars stuff, I think, and some other things. But and sometimes you hear horror stories about like
Yeah.
people that kind of encounter celebrities like that, and they just said that it with him. It's basically what you would expect. I mean, he wasn't really rude, but he wasn't really nice either.
Uh,
But yeah, Jeremy has done all kinds of stuff like that. He's met Kurt Russell multiple. He's been to Kurt Russell's house,
Holy cow.
like because Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn would put on like these like wine parties or
Uh-huh.
something, and Jeremy has been invited like 2 or 3 times to those at least, and has got to spend a lot of time with Kurt Russell. Um, he has a lot of connections, and it's something you gotta have in this world. Is like if you want to do stuff like that, if you want to make something of yourself, be successful, you gotta have connections. You
Mhm.
gotta show initiative. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah. And I just think that I need, some of the stuff that I've missed out on in the past, just like the Dick Smith thing. I need a good swift kick in the butt for not moving
I
forward.
completely get that, Dana. Like I would probably be if I did the same thing you did, I would be feeling the same way because I have done that multiple times. Like not necessarily in that kind of situation, but just to where like let me use conventions for example. Like I can remember years ago when I was going to a lot of conventions throughout the year. There will be several times that I would see someone at these conventions like, oh, well, they do a lot of shows. I'll get them
Yeah.
later.
I've done the
And there's been multiple people that has, I've done that for, and later they'll pass away, and then I never got a chance to actually meet them.
yeah.
There's been several, like David Hess being one of them. I would see him at shows all the time,
Mhm.
and I know there was times like I was at shows. Candace was with me. She's like, "Aren't you going to meet him?" I thought she was wanting to meet him. I was like, "So yeah, I was, but I'll get him. He does a lot of shows. I'll get him later." And then,
Dana's gonna find the initiative to meet Matthew McConaughey.
yeah,
I wish, Candace. I actually, speaking of David Hess, I got to meet him years and years ago at a Cinema Wasteland convention of all places. I met him and the rest of the Last House on the Left baddies, as they
mhm,
call them. I met Fred Lincoln. Fred Lincoln, that played Weasel in Last House on the Left,
mhm.
he was a hoot. Now, I know he was in pornos, I know he was in adult films, but that guy was a hoot. I loved talking to him. I could have talked to him all day.
I didn't go to that one, but I have been to a Cinema Wasteland in the past that David Hess was a guest. I've been to Horror Hound Weekend. David Hess was there at one point. A few others. I think he might have been at a Fright Night Film Fest one year. But every time like that, I would go to him, and I was like, "I'll get him later. I'll get him." Well, I'm gonna just tell you, if you really want to meet somebody, and
Go
my whole
go ahead and do it.
perspective has changed on that. Now I was like, if you want to meet them really badly, to where, especially nowadays at conventions, the prices they charge,
Mm.
um, you might want to go ahead and do it. If it means that much to you.
See, I
Uh,
missed out on meeting Gunnar Hansen,
yeah,
and I wished, and I did the same thing you did, Chris. I thought, well, I'll get him next time, and
yeah.
then before I knew it, Gunnar Hansen was gone, and I
Well,
didn't get a chance.
and you know how I feel about the whole like prices and stuff. And I complain just as much as anybody else about the prices nowadays and convention. But like I said, this has been a lifelong passion for me. The horror genre, just being obsessed with a lot of these people's work, and just
Yeah.
it's kind of shaped me as who I am. And like it has to be really somebody special that I'm gonna spend like crazy amounts of money on, that I have to really, really like them. And I did that earlier this year with Sam Raimi. Uh,
Oh,
I spent just on autographs. I spent $200, but then I got the photo op as well. So it was somewhere close to $400 altogether. I
you're
spent.
you're preaching to the choir here about Sam Raimi. I got the photo op, and then I went to Lexington Comic Con and got his autograph and got to
Because
meet him
that's
too.
just somebody, I absolutely love his work, and the Evil Dead films really like just kind of, you know well, I was already into the horror genre and everything at that point when I saw the Evil Dead film, but the thing, it really advanced how I felt about
Exactly. I
the
feel
horror
the
genre.
same way about those. Um,
And that's
Chris,
why
I'm gonna
that's one of my
step
favorite films.
away
Oh, I'm
for.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was just gonna say I'm gonna step away for just 1 second. I'm gonna take myself out of the stream, but you go ahead and continue
Okay.
talking. I'll be right back.
But yeah, I was just saying because the Evil Dead films, the original Evil Dead trilogy, I guess you could say, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, that's got to be one of the best horror trilogies of all time. Um, it's definitely my favorite horror trilogy, and Evil Dead 2 is up there as one of my favorite horror films of all time. And just because, like, I've talked about this before when me and Dana did the Apples and Oranges horror comedy show. Uh, Horror and comedy are my two favorite film genres. So when you combine them together, it just it oddly works. And Evil Dead 2 definitely, put that as it was the top horror comedies of all time. You just mix like all that blood and guts and gore with like the humor of Three Stooges
Exactly.
and all that stuff that that inspired Sam Raimi growing up. Is it just I don't. It's hard to understand if you're not big into those films or if you're not a big horror fan,
Mm-hmm.
but for some reason it just works.
Exactly.
Uh, and I know Dana feels that same way as I do,
Yeah.
because it's just she loves those Evil Dead films just as much as I do, and or anybody else. So she totally gets the whole vibe those films have, and the appeal that they have to people in general. I mean, you could definitely see that if you went to Horror Hound back in March
Yep.
when Sam Raimi was there, when Ted Raimi was there, Ivan Raimi was there, and just the amount of people that just showed up just for those guys was insane.
Yeah.
And when it boils down to it, that's why I think I love like the whole horror community so much, is because it's just this whole sea of people that can relate to what you feel about the genre.
Mhm.
And for me, just like personally growing up in this area, I had friends that liked it, but there was never like a mass amount of people that was
No.
really into that stuff, and or understood why we loved it. I've stated multiple times in the past, like I think a lot of that come like in the how I'm interested in all that. It comes from my dad pretty
Mhm.
much, because he was the one that introduced me to a lot of the. I don't think he intentionally meant to make me a horror fan. I think, like I said before, I think he just really got enjoyment of trying to scare me to death.
That's what I was going to
Uh,
say.
but it's just, as I've gotten older. Me and him talk about horror movies all the time. He's always like borrowing stuff off of me, like say, "Hey, bud, you got this on DVD or whatever?" Because my dad, that's like as far as he goes, as far as uh media platforms is DVD. He's never had a Blu-ray player. He doesn't want a Blu-ray player. He,
My mom wouldn't have had a Blu-ray player if I didn't give her one. She would have never had the initiative. I don't think my parents would have got out of the VHS days if it
well,
hadn't been for me.
my dad still watches VHS because
Yeah.
his player is one of the VCR DVD
Mhm.
combo that I got him, which I have the same one here at my house as well, because he watches a lot of like tapes, and I maybe I may get this from him too, but like the whole nostalgia of it, but like he loves watching westerns, and he
So
said,
does my dad. My dad loves Western
and
too.
his the thing he likes to watch the most on is VHS tapes, because my dad said that it by him still watching those VHS tapes of those westerns, because that's a lot of the time that's how he originally saw those, and that's how they originally looked, and he just wanted that to stick with him, and he didn't care about them being upgraded to the quality or anything. It's because that's the versions that he fell in love with, was the ones on VHS, because that's how he saw them, and that in all their grainy glory.
Right, exactly, exactly. I don't know if one of my dogs is still outside or not. Chris, just let me just
Okay.
step over here. I'm not sure where they're barking from. Darcy?
But if for anyone that's still in chat, I have a question for you. What? is a horror movie that is widely accepted as this great horror film, or it's super popular out there and mainstream, but you haven't seen it. Is there any? What about you, Dana? Is there any like horror film that's like super mainstream, popular, has a huge following, but you've never yourself seen it?
Never seen it. Uh, Gosh, I'm trying to think.
I can
Well,
think of like several like other films from other genres that are
uh,
popular that I've not seen.
well, that's what I was going to say. A few years ago, I had not. Well, I'd say two or so years ago, I had never seen "It's a Wonderful Life," which is not a horror movie, but this is a Christmas movie that people were like, "Oh my gosh, Dana, you've never seen "It's a Wonderful Life," and when I watched it, it was just like magic. I just love that movie.
Well, when it comes to horror, it's hard for me to think of something that I haven't seen that's like widely popular.
Right.
But as far as like other genre of films, like I can think of a ton. Like I've never seen the Godfather films. I've never seen Scarface.
Oh,
Um, and there's a lot of other stuff out there that I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but like but there is a lot that I have not seen, and it's like some of those, like I said, like the Godfather film, Scarface.
mhm.
That's shocking to people sometimes. There was a movie someone was telling me about a while back, which I've heard of it. I remember when it came out and everything, and it's got Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. I think it's called What Lies Beneath. Um,
Oh, What Lies Beneath has. I thought that had Michelle Pfeiffer in it, and I
or
thought,
what am I thinking? What's the movie with Tom Cruise
you're
and
thinking of. What is it? What is it? What is it? I think wasn't that Stanley Kubrick's last film? Is that the one you're
But I
talking?
remember someone telling me about What Lies Beneath as well, and let me
What
see.
Lies Beneath is a great film, though.
What Lies Beneath has got Harrison Ford and Michelle
I,
Pfeiffer. So
I,
I've not
yeah,
seen it
eyes
either.
eyes wide shut. I think's what you're thinking. That's
That's
the one
what it
that's
is.
good.
Eyes Wide Shut. I haven't seen that one, but I've been suggested to watch it several times.
It's
Um,
bizarre, Chris. I'll tell you that. It's been a while since I've seen it, but
Candace mentioned Megan though. Now
Megan.
I have seen Megan. She's not. Yeah, I try to play it up to her. I told her because I really loved Megan, but she is not super interested. She doesn't think the concept is very interesting. Which that's fine. It's not maybe just not her thing, but like I really enjoyed Megan a lot.
I enjoyed it when I watched it, but I think beforehand I kind of had the same attitude about it that Candace did. But I pushed myself and I went on and watched it, and I wound up enjoying it.
And I really think like, which not to spoil anything for anybody that's not seen it, but I think it definitely sets itself up for a sequel and possibly a franchise,
Right.
because the marketing for it was very well received. I mean, there's been lots of merchandise put out for the movie. I mean, even NECA has an ultimate figure out now of Megan. So
Uh,
usually, if NECA is putting stuff out there of your product, that means that you've made it.
right. Exactly. Yeah. If there's a figure, an action figure, whatever you want to call it, of something, yeah, you pretty much made it.
I mean, because NECA is the one they put out. They put out figures of the Universal Monsters, of Freddy Krueger, of Jason, of Michael Myers, Chucky, all the top names in the horror industry. So for Megan to be a part of that as well, getting merchandise made through NECA along with those other names,
Right.
it shows that it's had a lot of success. I was not expecting it. I was not expecting when I want to watch that and enjoy it as much as I did.
Hmm.
But it's kind of like, it plays into all this stuff that's going on nowadays with AI and
Yeah.
everything. And it's basically like all of that mixed with child's play in a way.
Yeah, very much so. And there's another new movie. I don't know if it's come out yet. I'll see if you have seen anything about it. Um, I think these people move into a house that everything is done for them. It's artificial intelligence or
Yeah,
AI.
I have seen, I think, a trailer for that. I can't
Yeah,
remember what it's called, but
yeah, I'm forgetting the title right now.
what is that called? Let me see if I can look at Afraid.
Okay, yep, yep,
And like the AI and Afraid is like
right.
highlighted. So yeah, I do remember seeing the trailer for that. I want to see that. Now, like I said, I just recently watched because Joe Bob showed it, Late Night with the Devil. Is there any like new horror that's came out that you've not got to watch yet, Dana?
New horror. Seems like there was something that came out kind of recently that me and Steve didn't.
I'll tell you one that's it's newer. It's very came out very recent past year or so. That I've still not got to watch, and it's getting its own pretty big following. And even NECA is putting out figures for this. Is Thanksgiving, Eli Ross
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. I've still not watched it. Um,
Oh, I know one. I remembered what it was, and Steve has downloaded a copy of it. But Terrifier 3.
I can care less if I see that shit or not.
Oh
I mean,
man.
I eventually will watch because I've watched the other two, and but
I'm just kind of curious about it because I liked the first
uh,
Terrifier, and then the second Terrifier, me and Steve both thought it was like too much. But I'm still intrigued. I still want to see Terrifier.
well, I just got to do it to complete it. I guess I need to watch it. I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier about giving stuff a chance, but it's hard for me to give anything a chance with Terrifier films because I don't like the first two films. Um, I just I don't get it. But that's fine. Like people that do love it. That's great for them because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I like that people will be like, that shit sucks or something. Um,
But I
but
think the whole business about, I think that's a little bit BS about people passing out during it, people
yeah,
vomiting.
I just think to me it's like n- it's not interesting to me because it's not something that does anything for me because they don't really have much of a story to them. And the Art the Clown character, while it's interesting, but it's also just like this clown. He's a clown, and I've never been big into clown horror other than like, I like Pennywise and It, and I like Captain Spaulding, but
Mhm.
that's about it.
And
Any
you
other
like killer clowns from outer
and
space.
then Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Mhm.
But other than that, like I've noticed there's a huge infatuation with clowns in horror amongst horror fans, and I've never really understood it. But I mean, I get it because they can be creepy and everything. Because actual clowns and stuff can be have a creepy factor to them, but like with the Art the Clown character in the Terrifier films, there's really no motivation for what he's doing to these people.
Right. Yeah. It's
There's really
kind of
no
just like
story.
torture for torture's sake.
Yeah, and there's really no story to it. And why? And like I said, what you look at like character, and he's being compared to other iconic like horror characters like Freddy Krueger and Jason, and so he's the next big thing. But you look at those characters like Freddy Krueger. He's killing because he was murdered by the town people. He had a reason for wanting to
And
kill these people.
Freddy, the character of Freddy evolved. Art the Clown has not really evolved in 3
Right.
movies, I don't think.
And like I said, maybe there's stuff about it that I don't fully understand about the character, but just based off what I've seen in the past 2 films and what I'm hearing about Terrifier 3, they it's basically people are saying it's just more of the same, and it's that there's really no evolution for his character in really any way. And I mean, they're saying I've seen some people say that he's possibly has like ties to Satan and all that and stuff, and he's like this whole entity. But I don't know. But like all I've seen in the past 2 films, I wasn't really didn't care for because it just felt like there was no rhyme or reason as to why he was doing this. And I don't think it should take 3 films for him to explain that.
No, definitely not. So, and there are other films that, like, some of them are more modern films, some of them are older films that people look at me when I say I don't like them. They look at me like I put my clothes on sideways. And the original Wicker Man, people can't understand why I don't like that. They don't understand why I don't like things like Hereditary. I can't stand Hereditary.
I liked Hereditary at the beginning, but then as it went on, I just wasn't much on it. And I've still not seen Midsummer, but
I have not seen all of it. People
I'm
kept
not
telling
super
me.
interested, honestly.
I just don't think that if that is what's considered folk horror, I don't know if that's what
And
it is.
the Babadook,
The
God,
Babadook, I hated the first time around, Chris, but I waited and I watched it when Joe Bob showed it, and I liked it better. I still think that kid's super.
well, that was the only thing that made it entertaining for me is that Joe Bob hosted it. I can't stand that film. But
Candace says, Cemetery Man, cough, cough, ha ha, just kidding. I've tried to watch Cemetery Man multiple times, Candace, and I understand the appeal of it, and I don't hate it. I just don't love it, you know.
oh wow, that's surprising to hear since
Yeah,
you're a big Evil Dead fan, and it
yeah, I
has
know.
a lot of similarities to Evil Dead.
Yep, there definitely are. I don't know. I've tried to watch it several times, and I
Oh,
feel
I
the
love
same
Cemetery
way.
Man.
Just kind of like meh. It's which I know it sounds crazy, but I just don't know why I feel that way about
And
it.
I don't know if Candace ever told you about like because Netflix used to send out DVDs before they
Oh
had the whole
yeah, yeah.
streaming, and Candace had rented Cemetery Man through Netflix on DVD, and I can't remember exactly how the story goes. She could probably tell you, but it seems like she didn't send it back, and she had to pay just like $5 to
And she
keep
got
it.
to keep it.
Yeah, something like that. I may be getting some details wrong on that. She could tell you more about it. Um, but yeah, we have that net. It's like in the little sleeve, Netflix
In the
sleeve.
little red
We
sleeves.
have it here somewhere. Well,
Uh,
this was actually like a white sleeve, and
oh, a white
it has
sleeve.
a sticker on it
Uh-huh.
that says Netflix. It says
Yeah,
Cemetery
yeah,
Man. It has
that's
like
what it
all
was.
of the. It gives like a description of the movie. It has like the cast listed on there. That's how a lot of the DVDs were
Yeah.
like when they sent them out. Um,
Candace says, and Rupert Everett is hot in it. he is. He is a nice looking man. I ain't gonna lie about that. Candace says, I fell in love with it the first time I watched it. I couldn't find it anywhere else and found out that it was rare at the time, so I kept it and bought it because I couldn't bear to send it back.
yeah, I knew something to that effect. I couldn't exactly remember all the details.
Now,
Uh,
I hate to, and Chris, I'll let you finish your thought here, but I hate to cut this off, but you know me, I'm going to have to go to the restroom for one thing because I drink too much, fluids while I'm trying to do these things. But I want Chris to finish his thought because he.
oh no, it wasn't nothing important. I was just
You
rambling
sure?
on.
I
Yeah,
mean, I don't mind. I could talk to Candace and Chris all night long and into the next day, but we have been on here
almost
close
3 years.
3 hours, close to 3 hours, and I'm going to have to get a few things done and prepare for the festivities tomorrow. And
Yeah, I know Candace said that you were kind of concerned. You thought it was going to rain or something over your way. Is that right?
yeah, there's still a chance. They're saying it's likely, but our neighborhood in particular is still planning on doing trick or
Yeah.
treating for
I
Halloween.
know they did that one year here in Hazard. Like it came a downpour on trick or treat night,
Mhm.
and we were just trying to make it the best that we could because I know that there was they were having a thing like down the road at the VFW,
Right.
and there was like I think they said there was like hundreds and hundreds of people were just coming to that because that's nobody couldn't go outside and and go up the streets and stuff regularly because of all the rain. So
Yeah.
they had all this like inside like trick or treat thing at the VFW. But I did check the weather earlier for our area here, and it's supposed to be clear tomorrow evening here, and it's in the high 70s, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So at least it ain't gonna be really cold. That's I know the last few years we went trick or treating with Noah. He's complained a lot because it
It's
being
been
so
chilly.
cold.
Well, yeah, I think it might be in the lower 70s here, but we've got we've got some rain changes, but I'm just going to make the best of it, and hopefully the kids will be able to come out. And I always love the littler kids. I love seeing them. I'm more like my mom was when I was growing up. She wanted to see the little kids, and I like seeing the teenagers. The teenagers go crazy over my decorations outside. Um, but the little ones is the ones I really want to hand out the candy to, the bags that I fixed up and stuff like that. But you know,
Me and Candace have not ever got to do that. But I would say the next few years we'll have to start doing that because I think Noah's going to probably get to the point to where he doesn't want to go trick or treating anymore. I dread that day because I really hope he keeps an interest in it, and just Halloween in general and everything, which I think he will because he loves he's a lot like me. I'm not sure what Noah's favorite holiday is. If it's Halloween or Christmas, he likes
Steve, what do you need?
both of them pretty equally.
What kind? Double A or triple?
Double A.
Um,
I mean, I can't. They used to be.
See, we may not have any. Here, take these rechargeable ones. They probably got some kind of charge on them and use them. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, you're fine. You're right.
He was getting irritated because I haven't had time to clean out those kitchen drawers, and he's looking for batteries, and I could tell he was getting upset about it. So, but thank you, Candace, for saying great stream, guys. We appreciate it as always, and I appreciate Chris being my co-host for this watch along. And I appreciate everybody that came out and kept the chat active. And this has been a fun one. This is one that I'm going to remember it being a good one. And I'm hoping that people that didn't get to come in tonight and watch it live will watch it on the replay. And is there anything you want to bring up, Chris, before we tie it all up with a nice, neat little bow?
Just thanks to everybody for watching, and be sure to go and give this video a like. if you know anybody that's interested in these types of videos, get them to come subscribe to Dana's channel.
Yep.
Everybody be safe tomorrow night on Halloween. Don't do anything crazy or anything that I wouldn't do.
Don't prank anybody, people. You
Check
know.
your candy. Watch out for those razor blades.
Yeah. If you get any green apples, check them for razor blades.
Yeah. Or even like the full size candy bars. They could sneak them in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they could. They definitely could. But yeah, have fun tomorrow, gang. And have a fantastic rest of your, I almost said Thursday, but tomorrow's Thursday. A fantastic rest of your Wednesday night. And for those of you that can get off for Halloween, enjoy it. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do, and I'm sure Chris wants to remind everybody, and my buddy Jack back there wants to remind everybody to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. And pick up a shirt that has that design on it at deaditesondeck.com, because you can now get those. Plus some other shirts as well. And Candace is right. She says, "Happy Halloween, everyone. Don't go in the woods alone and stay away from the spooky mansions. And remember to say God bless you when you sneeze." So we're out of here for the night, but we'll see everybody next time. Have a good night, folks, and a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.